Yes.
I'm still having trouble. Gary
Okay.
Novak.
Hold on, I'm getting back there. Let's see.
Who's that?
Oh. I see, everyone looks like
Thank you.
Um, Gary Novak's still having trouble getting in.
Okay, well, he looks like we see him.
Okay, whoops.
We see Tim Cook.
Well, I see Gary too. Look.
Okay, hang on. I just got lost. I just lost the whole screen. Hang on. There we go. Okay, now why am I not showing up here?
I don't know, but we're live, so I'm going to get us started, and we'll
Okay.
try and get us figured out. Because you're showing up, Gary, on our screen.
Okay, well, that's the important thing.
Yeah, if you could just.
And we can hear you.
Here, wait, I can probably do that.
Oh, we think we may have a solution. Okay, well, while we wait, we are here. You find yourselves in Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. Welcome. It's Friday, February 21st. And we are, Friday's one of our housing days, and we're focusing this morning on homeownership associations, which a couple of which have some very particular concerns. And we have a committee member who is remote, and we have two of us in the room. We're expecting a third. We're expecting two more, but we have a quorum, so we're starting. For those of you who are new to our committee, Gary and Tim, we should just introduce ourselves. Tom Chitton is will join us at about 9. We have. I'm Allison Clarkson. I represent the Windsor District, Windsor County. And Randy, you're next.
I'm Randy Brock. I represent Franklin County and the northern part of Grand Isle County.
Yeah, good morning. Dave Weeks, representing Rutland County.
And Keisha.
Yes, good morning. Keisha Ram Hinsdale, Chittenden Southeast, and as the chair will probably underscore, Senator Tom Chittenden and I have been following your thread. Can you not hear me?
No, we can hear
We can hear you.
They're gonna hear you.
Oh, very good.
Oh, okay. And we understand there's a number of compounding issues in your situation, but this is the exact type of community that we want to ensure is not harmed by state policy, but rather benefits from state policy. So we're glad that you're here.
Exactly. So I don't know how, Tim, I assume you're going to kick off this conversation, and Keisha is going to, because Keisha is your senator, is going to moderate it. And so Tim, I'm assuming we're going to pass it off to you and have you introduce yourself for the record and dive in.
All right, well, thank you. I'm Tim Cook, and I'm the secretary of the Wilsonwood Homeowners Association, and Gary, who's on, is the president. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in front of the audience, the committee. We've sent you material that I assume has been handed out or is being handed out. I'm not going to read it. I would prefer, if it's protocol allows, to just kind of explain the situation and then hopefully leave time for questions that you may have. The issue primarily is that because we're a homeowners association, well, I'm not even sure that's the issue. We own the lot our house sits on, which means we're not able to get listed on the mobile home park registry. And our position is, but we're a mobile home park.
Right.
And that, as far as we understand from the Commissioner Farrell's office, he and his team, they cannot find anyone else in our circumstance where it's a homeowners association that technically owns the park. We understand the purpose of the motorhome registry is to help residents deal with the fact that they may have rates that are being raised without getting appropriate services and so on. And so they've encouraged co-ops, which we applaud. That's great that you're encouraging co-ops so that residents in parks like this can become owners of it. our position is though, once they become a co-op, they become us. The owners are in fact the people that are setting the rules, setting the prices, and that's the position we're in. We consist of 34 units recognized by HUD as affordable senior housing. That's an issue in Vermont. We have a model that allows that. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my phone off here. I forgot to do that. We're managed by an elected board of directors. There are no other parties getting any money from this. We pay only the bills that are conducive to helping the association. We make no decisions, financial decisions, other than just commonly, cutting down a tree that's fallen on a house. Those kinds of things we do. We're empowered to do, but we don't make any decisions about that would require people to pay more money. We don't pay rent, but we do pay a monthly fee for the services the community gets. And that's listed on the handout you gave me we gave you, sorry, at the page, the top of the page 2. That's $245, $245 a month. We don't think that's excessive, but it includes, as listed there, cable TV, high-speed internet access, plowing the roads, all that kind of stuff. Everything that it takes to maintain the community, that's what that $245 pays for. That's a very reasonable price for having affordable housing. We have people here in their late 80s and 90s that live alone. And they're able to do that because they can afford to live here independently for as long as they can and be in a neighborhood that's going to help. If there's a problem, they get help. They own their own home. They don't have to go through the expense of living in a residential community that they can't afford, which means the state picks up the difference, or the federal government. I'm not sure how that all works yet. I will find out, I'm sure, down the road. So that's the problem we have. And the thing we maintain is that this is a distinction without a difference.
Right.
If we're a homeowners association that's literally controlling our own budget, there's nobody else involved. Once residents in a mobile home park become a co-op, they are controlling their own thing. And they get to remain on the registry. See, that's the thing that's sticking out our craw a bit. They get to remain on the registry, so they get the benefits of funding and other services that we do not get. And that just doesn't seem fair. It doesn't make sense to us. As we say, it's a distinction without any practical difference. And we have examples in there of where that's occurred. Now,
And
go ahead.
Mr. Cook, sorry, I'm just handing off some kiddos and then I'm going to get on screen here. But
You make me feel old when you call me Mr. Cook.
Tim, sir, sorry. Tim, I believe that this came to a new potential crisis point because of the 3-acre rule and how you all are being brought into that, but not considered the same way for resources. And I think Sean and others are on who could speak to that. That no longer then is about changing a definition, but about changing the stormwater rules potentially so that they don't impact communities like yours in such a challenging way without any resources.
We would beg to differ a bit.
Oh, good. Okay, that's helpful. That's why you're here.
It's certainly an added thing and scared the daylights out of all our residents, because we're looking at over $200,000 that people on fixed incomes don't have. But it still doesn't change the fact that we have our park, all but 3 of the 34 homes are over 40 years old. And so there's weatherization issues, there's safety issues. Parks or mobile homes, manufactured homes that were built in the early 80s have different specs, than the houses that are built now. They're less safe, they're less warm, they're less comfortable. And so there are a lot of people here that are looking at building ramps. Oh, you move, it's like an auction. You move, you own it. You know, I'm going to respond. So it isn't, Senator Hinsdale, it isn't just the stormwater. I mean, that's the most scary things to us right now, but it's an ongoing issue. People have to do work to their homes. And we're don't have accessible funds that other people have. Like next door, we have the co-op. There's some confusion there. We have the Wilson Cooperative Housing Corporation and the Wilson Woods Homeowners Association. They were all intended to be one thing at the beginning. Something happened. We were a homeowners association, and in fact, incorporated as a homeowners association originally in December 1st, 1983.
Yeah.
Whatever issues happened, and they split off. None of us were here then, so we don't really know specifically firsthand what happened. But they became a co-op that we believe the state was involved because there were financial issues and bankruptcies and so on. And they became a co-op. But they're run the same way we are. They have an elected board that conducts business normally. I mean, as we say, there's a distinction with no practical difference.
So, Keisha, may I follow up on your question, which is, what other things, Tim, are you not, because you're a homeowners association and not sort of under the umbrella of the mobile home park world, are you not able to access weatherization help? I would assume that each individual homeowner, depending on their income, was able to access weatherization help.
We gave two examples in there. There are more, but we gave two. If you look on page, top of page 3, we have one resident that has only lived here a year or so, and he's got an older home, and he had a kitchen ceiling, a leak in the roof that ruined the kitchen ceiling, and it's cool, you know, it needs weatherization work. He went to the CVOEO and they approved, they said, you meet the qualifications. And then they realized we're not on the registry. So they denied him the funding.
So a lot of it goes back to just simply not being recognized on the registry.
Yes, yes. There are other funds available, but those other funds are also available to people on the registry. They're not available to us. And another thing that we've discovered is organizations that have money, particularly charitable, like Bill Gates, you know, that kind of thing, they don't have time to go through and search for the people to give money to. So they use the registry as a vehicle to notify people money's available. And then we had another lady here that was using the Manufactured Home Improvement and Repair Program.
Right.
She qualified for everything, but they notified her, they thought she was part of the WWCHC. She's part of the WWHOA, so therefore she was denied the funding. So this is a fairly big deal.
Okay, Keisha, do you see David has a question?
Oh, I didn't know you wanted me to facilitate to that level. And I wonder, Sean is on, right? So
Sean is on. I just want to, David has a question, and then I just hope to hear from Gary first. And then we have Sean, and I believe we have Scott Charland, our new Arthur Amelin from the agency. So it would be great for them. That's why they've been invited to respond and to discuss this issue together. But David, you have a question first.
Very simple. I'm trying to catch up to the conversation. When you guys are talking about stormwater, are you talking about the 3-acre rule?
I believe that's what we're talking.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure we're talking.
That's what we're talking about. So Tim, given are you ready to pass it to Gary to amplify your testimony?
Oh, I'm never willing to give up complete control, but I want to hear from Gary. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Hi there, I'm Gary Novak. I'm the president of Wilson Woods Homeowners Association. I like to correct one thing that Tim said. He was probably a little nervous. He said he was the secretary of WWHOA. He is the treasurer. not the secretary. I like to
Get excited.
bring up another case that we were denied funding because we're not on the registry. The Vermont A&R had a program to upgrade sewers systems. We had 2 pumps that were dying. They sounded like washing machines that pumped the sewage. We applied to those, which was $32,000 worth of pump replacement costs, plus the valves, plus the wiring, plus the housing, etc., the control box, the whole thing. We were turned down because we weren't on the registry. So we had to bite the bullet, and we bought 1 pump for $18,000, which was a burden on us because we're also dealing with stormwater issues. We spent roughly $51,000 on engineering planning costs only. And we haven't even started the construction part of the stormwater plan. And it's going to be quite a burden on us, and not having been on the registry, not getting money. We can't afford it. It'll completely bust our bank, and Tim will verify that. We cannot afford it. And if we put a special assessment on our people, we have people that are just living on Social Security alone. There is no way they can shoulder that. It would just crush them.
Gary, can you give us a comparison? If you had been on the registry, what would those, you would have been eligible for, of what, 50% support on that engineering? What is the financial impact of what you're not able to be, what you're not eligible?
Okay. Well, if we were on the registry, we could have had over $50,000 worth of money could have been sent to us to cover engineering costs. We were told, we sent in our request and our documentation to the state. They came back and they said, oh, you're only eligible for $29,999 worth of engineering planning cost. We put in our application in September, and we still haven't heard yet whether we're going to even get a cent of that $29,999. So we hope we're going to get it, but we haven't seen the check yet.
I think we can maybe be helpful with a nudge at A&R on that. So that's the key thing, is that makes you eligible for a very significant support from the water and sewer programs at A&R.
Right. Yeah.
And as I said before, in addition to that, the individual homeowners will have much more money available to them for weatherization and so on. There are situations that people have found, but they have to find it. And it's not easy to find those kinds of things. There's not like one place you can go on the web and say, here's a list of all the places that will help you. And the fact that we're affordable senior housing should mean something.
Oh, it means a lot. It's wonderful that you are there. And I'm just curious, how many other homeowner associations like yours exist in Vermont? Did I hear you say at the top you're the only one? I can't believe.
I think he's muted.
Sean can probably answer this better, but according to communications we got from Commissioner Farrell, we're the only one that they
We're the only one.
aware of. And
You're unique. You're unique. So maybe if you can get this oversight fit, and there would be others, because you're right. This is a great affordable senior housing model, and one to duplicate. Just for information, the size of your lots, I know you have a lot of common land that you share. Do you have, what are the size of the lots that these 34 homes are on?
Most of the
3,500 square feet each.
roughly. Sorry.
Right around there.
Sorry, Gary, they're roughly what? A quarter?
They're roughly 0.2 of an acre or less. Some of them, because of the way the positioning, our 2 main roads, Middlewood Road and Red Pine Road, are not straight. They curve. So some lots got a little bit more because of the curve of the road. Some have a little bit less, but we're averaging about 0.2 around 2/10 of an acre. And I believe that's what's called a building lot size. Some of the contractors have told me that. So I'm just taking their word for it. Another thing I wanted to bring up,
Yeah,
but not being on the registry, and this is the example is on page 4 of 4, the top. The Federal Corporate Transparency Act is a requirement of the U.S. Department of Treasury, and all the HOAs must report the beneficial ownership information report by January 1, 2025. Now, I'm just going to put in a piece of information here. There was a court challenge to this, but I do not know what happened to it. But we went on the January 1st, 2025. We did not even know about it. The only way we found out about it is our attorney called me and says, "Do you know about this? Because I have a client that's asking us, how do we fill out this report?" That is the only way we found out. And according to what the attorney told me, what their client had found out, because they were on some type of mailing list, which we were not. So if we didn't fill it out, there would be severe penalties for not doing that. And we were fortunate that our attorney contacted us, and I filled it out. We sent it in, and it was, yep, you're all good. So you met the deadline. But there's another case right there, a federal program that we have no idea was even there until our attorney told us about it.
right, right.
So
So,
if I could just say,
Yeah.
you know, this is indicative of decades of trying to look at definitions around, you know, mobile homes, small homes, temporary homes, homes that actually physically can be moved, homes that are very much tied to the ground, homes people own, homes people rent. But mobile home law has been found in automobile law, in real estate law, in, you know, all kinds of areas of law. And Sean knows that extremely well. And I think there was an effort to look at the definition last biennium, but it would have other implications. So we might want to let ACCD speak to that briefly. I still don't think that it should be the end of the conversation, because this is really concerning. Now we've sort of, yeah, the nectarine bag's really big.
and maybe we can put on Keisha's seat.
Sure.
We have a placeholder for you, Keisha, the nectarine.
Thank you. But I think you two have illustrated well the, you know, it's not beyond all that, it's ownership, and we should be glad to have people who have the stability of ownership and common, you know, purpose in their community. It sounds like it's functioning extremely well. So how we can still make you eligible for support is of interest, it sounds like, to everyone on the committee, is where we are, Senator Cheney.
I agree. Thank you. And I think, Tim, unless you have something else to say, I'd turn us to the department, but Tim, you had something else that you'd like to add. And Tom Chittenden has joined us.
I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm going to watch the testimony, but I am following this issue and I'm very sympathetic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there are one or two other things that we were hoping initially that it could be done administratively. And the fact that we're apparently, as far as we know, the only mobile home park in this situation, it seemed like a simple solution. We are the exception to the rule. They were concerned, our understanding was their concern was unintended consequences. If they rewrote the definition of a mobile home park, it could have unintended consequences, which we understand. And we have no objection to co-ops working, that's fine. But we are an unintended consequence. I can't believe when that definition was written, someone was saying, okay, let's make sure we exclude those 34 homes on the hill in Williston Woods. But we're literally being discriminated against because we're a homeowner, we own our own lot. But other than that, there's no distinction. And I would just want to give you quickly that under our covenants, we are required to live in a manufactured home. three of us, I'm one, replaced the home that was here with a new one, but it had to be a manufactured home. We have no choice. We are a mobile home park. There's no way we can get around that. We
Yeah.
literally have to live in. Yeah, but we're being denied services
Right.
and financial aid that other people that live in a mobile home park. Yeah.
So, Tim, I think that we're hearing you, and what Keisha alluded to is, I think we have the department here. I think we're very open to looking at what the department could come back to us with, but I'd love to pivot to the department, to Sean and to Scott, and have them introduce themselves. Scott, we haven't met you, so we would love to meet you, and we'd love to just hear your response and hear how we could solve this problem, because actually this sounds like a very interesting model for us to roll out and actually market around the state for affordable senior housing. So it strikes me that if we can figure this out and get this solved, we could actually market this as an idea around the state for homeownership. So Sean and Scott, you heard us introduce ourselves. Scott, we haven't met you before, so it's good to have you. And Sean, it's yours.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sean Gilpin. I'm the director of the housing division. And I'll let my colleague Scott introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Charland, and I am the housing program coordinator with the housing division.
So as I noted last time in front of your committee, Scott has stepped into the role that Arthur vacated. So he is becoming our new mobile home park expert. So Tim, Gary, thanks so much for for your information. The more I learn about this, the more frankly, the more sympathetic I am about the issue. And I want to be very clear. It sounds like you have a wonderful community, and we certainly don't intend to be obstructionist about anything. The reason it's not on the mobile home park registry, and the registry, I understand hearing the testimony that it's being utilized perhaps as an eligibility criteria. The registry is nothing more than just a list of the mobile home parks that are in the state. And because, as noted, because of the ownership structure, this particular community doesn't meet the Vermont definition of a mobile home park. The distinction is often made because of that land lease situation where a mobile home park is a leased land community. We usually make that distinction in part because financing can be much more difficult in that sort of situation with the bank. And also there's a different power dynamic between a park owner and a mobile home owner in a park situation than there is, say, an apartment complex where theoretically it's easier to remove yourself in a bad situation. So we actually have, the state of Vermont has a whole chapter of laws that pertain specifically to mobile home parks. It's Title 10, Chapter 153. And I would be interested to see how much that those requirements align with the HOA's bylaws and how they operate. I hadn't actually heard that it was required to be what you had just mentioned, Tim, the manufactured home requirement. So that said, I can't speak to ANR's program and how they determine their eligibility. I know that there is weatherization opportunities for other single family homes that I'm kind of surprised you haven't been able to access. That's not a criticism. I'm happy to look into that as well. And as far as our manufactured home improvement and repair program that I'm hopeful we'll have a moment for Scott to speak on, that was particularly directed at parks because we recognize that some of these repairs are difficult to finance with a leased land situation, and frankly we had to draw the line somewhere. There's actually 2/3 as many homes outside of parks on owned lands, dissimilar from this homeowners association. They're more scattered than there are in parks, and so trying to identify the highest need with limited resources is something we always have to grapple with.
Sean?
Yes, please.
And maybe Scott can answer this as well. I just I feel like having done this around as long as you have, for over a decade. We also recognized that manufactured housing has often not been eligible for the same bank financing as a stick-built home. I have a provision that was recommended by the Pew Charitable Trust last year in the bill we're drafting that would essentially create more by right manufactured housing opportunities in the state and try to reduce discrimination in any financing or siting for manufactured housing. I'm just trying to inject that this financing piece is unique to manufactured housing. They have always been left off the financing map. So, you know, it's that also, I think, just needs to be said in terms of a park that is exclusively manufactured housing that otherwise would have a hard time finding this kind of financing.
Sure, no, that's a fair point.
Could I interject?
Eric. Yeah.
There is another point on being a mobile home park, and I can tell you this because I went through it. I had a busted pipe. I called 7 plumbers.
It wasn't what?
I had a busted pipe, water pipe. Yes, sir. And I called 7 plumbers. I had 2 come in, look at the place. That's a mobile home. We do not work on it. Thank you. Bye.
That is another factor, but again, I'd go back. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, and I apologize if that's what I'm doing, but I appreciate your comment, Sean. The thing I don't understand, it doesn't make sense to me, is that once a mobile home park becomes a co-op, they are functionally the same thing we are. They get to stay on the registry, even though there's no other third-party owner causing them grief. That's the part we'd like to see addressed. We were hoping it could be done administratively. If that isn't possible, then we're hoping it can be addressed legislatively.
Yeah, I again, I'm sympathetic to the issue. I think we ought to discuss it legislatively, in part because there might be other. I'm thinking about land use and zoning implications if your homeownership center is parceled out versus if it's treated as a single parcel mobile home park. I'm just speculating here, but that would be one thing that I would want to look into. So happy to continue the discussion, and perhaps it would be helpful for me to take a look at your operating bylaws and see how those align or are dissimilar from our current mobile home park law. And one other thing I did want to bring up is we haven't been able to do a comprehensive census of whether or not there's other communities like yours throughout the state, you know, in part because having no centralized registry of such communities, we wouldn't, you know, there's no great way for us to find out. It does sound like this is a unique situation, and especially unique being that you're in a butter to an existing mobile home park. So I don't have a great answer right now, but happy to continue looking into it.
I think I'm hearing, and committee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm hearing interest in directing the department to come back to us, having looked at the bylaws and having looked at this and actually reconsidering and rewriting our mobile home park definition, maybe to be a little more expansive, and coordinate the co-op mobile home park eligible work with and align it with our home ownership associations, and actually consider either for the second half of the biennium or second half of this session or next year, actually rolling out, supporting and marketing this kind of a home ownership model for the rest of the state, particularly after you assess whether there are other homeowners associations like this. I'll certainly try and find if we have such a thing in our neck of the woods, but I think you may, if the committee is supportive of this, and I think I'm hearing you would be, that we might direct you to do this work.
Madam Chair, I hope we can do something additional that's quicker. I wonder if these poor folks could just be added to whatever list,
Yeah, for immediate help.
now.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And I mean, I know how flippant that sounds, but there are real concerns they're facing with very limited time and capacity to be managing a stormwater project, et cetera, while dealing with this also. And so I don't know if there's a way to direct, through a letter, somebody, the agency or, CVOEO or somebody to render them eligible for certain things while we sort out the definition, because that takes forever.
What we could do, this committee's good at exemptions and interim measures. And so I think that is I think that's a great idea, because I think we need to help you fairly immediately. I agree. I'm sorry. I was just sort of thinking big picture, and yeah, you're absolutely right. So I guess, Sean, we would ask you and Scott, if that is a possibility. I mean, maybe it may not happen by crossover, but we have this session to work on this and get this fixed for these people ASAP.
Yes, I'd be happy to look into some opportunities here. We do have, you do have in front of you language about the manufactured housing improvement repair program that we could discuss in the short term, and happy to consider how we can, knowing that program is oversubscribed already and we're getting ready to open up for another round, happy to see how we can make that available. As far as the Agency of Natural Resources, I'm a little confused as to the 3-acre rule and why it's applying here. So that's a question for our fine folks over there. I will say just one final thought, and I want to be very, very clear. The mobile home park law has been hard fought and really meticulously put together over the years. So we will be rather conservative about trying to make changes to that law, just knowing that it has helped to protect vulnerable communities. Happy to figure out how we can extend those protections and resources availability to this group, but we will be very cautious about making changes to that chapter.
But things change, Sean, and we evolve, and so clearly do our manufactured home communities. So I think we need to flexibly turn to change. And Gary, I think you had a comment.
Yes, I like to explain how come we have our stormwater. The Department of Environmental Conservation, along with the Army Corps of Engineers, did a survey, and they determined we had 3.81 acres of impervious surfaces. Because we're over 3 acres, that's how come we have to do stormwater. There are people, there's actually a business on North Williston Road, just down the road. They are under 3 acres. They run a sand pit. They do not have to do any of this.
David is.
We did confirm that it is now shifting to a half acre, wasn't 3 acre to a half acre. The timeline, we're in that time.
What do we know when that? I don't know.
Now, and I'm confirming that.
Yeah.
The exact timing. But we're down to a half acre.
So that I think and that would mean they would no longer fall into that requirement.
No, I'm saying that it's going to get absorbed into this whole.
Right. Okay. That is a bigger conversation, not one for this morning, but absolutely we need to have it, and happy to carry that to our Senate Natural Resources Committee, which is weighing this because it's been such an issue statewide. So that is thank you, and we will figure out our course for what we're going to do. But I think Sean and Scott, you haven't said anything. Do you have any additional thoughts on this?
Well, I was only going to add that as far as similar parks or similar HOA situations, there is a park in Vernon that's looking to convert potentially into an HOA from a mobile home park. That's a 6-month process, and it will be the first time that statute has ever been utilized by a park to convert from a standard mobile home park to an HOA situation. And there's one other park, I forget which town it's in. There's a subdivision there where 5 of the lots in the park are a mobile home park, and the rest are individually owned lots that do not fall under the registry. So those are the only 2 situations I can think of that are similar to Williston Woods, but Williston Woods actually is unique where they're all contiguous lots, but they're individually owned parcels. Typically, a mobile home park would be 1 parcel for all the lots.
Yeah, and we have this in other housing situations, so I'm a little puzzled that this is a problem. I mean, for example, Safford Common in Woodstock is a significant rental portion. It's a workforce housing project that took us ages to actually get built, but its significant percent are renters, but there are 4 homes that are owned by individuals. So we have a mix of ownership and renter all over the place. I don't think it should matter whether it's manufactured homes or stick-built homes. I mean, I think we can solve this problem. This doesn't seem unsolvable.
Yeah. And the other note is that there are about 20,000 mobile homes in the state approximately, and only about 7,000 of those are within mobile home parks. So the majority are outside of mobile home parks. And there's a variety of situations as far as the amount of acreage that folks own, the quality of the home. And certainly the department recognizes that many of those homes do need repair that are on individually owned lots.
Right. Well, and that will pivot us to the program we're hoping you will speak to, which we have in our housing bill, which we're going to see Tuesday. Once the House is finished with all their drafting requirements, we are going to get to look at our draft on Tuesday. And so if we're okay, I'm just going to have us pivot to the home ownership improvement program. I mean, the manufactured home investment or improvement program. And Sean and Scott, if you could speak to that. But I think, and we'll figure out action steps on this, but I really think we need immediate action, as Keisha points out. We need immediate action to support this kind of, even if it's a unique community, we need to support them. And their uniqueness shouldn't be a detriment. It should be a model we're supporting statewide. And so let's continue that conversation. So we need immediate interim help, and we need, I think, then definitional change and support going forward.
I'll just suggest that Senator Chittenden and I can work with Ledge Council. I don't know if that even, I'll work on a letter to start that we can direct to ACCD and ANR. And I'll probably need Sean and Scott's help to make sure I word it in such a way that it doesn't imply something bigger than, this is right now a unique situation legislatively, but from everything we have heard, the intent would be to render them eligible for programs and funding and supports from both agencies.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Thank you. And Gary, did you have one more thought before we pivot to the mobile home?
Yes, I'd like to offer a chance that I know the committee and or Sean and Scott, you're welcome to come over, have a tour. We'll be glad to show you and yeah, I know you guys are everybody's busy, but I do want to offer that so you'll have a good idea. It's one thing to look and say, oh, we're talking about this, but it's another thing to walk. And I'll show you where the stormwater, I'll show you the sewer, I'll show you all that, so you have a good picture of it.
Senator Chittenden and I will.
Okay, I'd be glad to have you.
Coming in today.
That sounds like a good field trip. And also, Gary and Tim, would you send Sean and Scott your bylaws? I think Sean said I think that's a key piece of moving forward on some of this.
Would you CC me and Senator Chittenden so we can use that to start the letter?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your help identifying this as an issue for us.
Thank
So,
you for.
We're gonna, and you're welcome
Thank-
to stay. You're welcome to stay because again, if you were on this registry, you would be eligible for this support. So, Sean and Scott, would you be kind enough to talk to us? We have a couple things we want to ask you about. One is the money, and we want to, I think, support what you have in the governor's budget and in the request. And just if you'd share that with us. Also, we want to have I know I have other things. I just want to ask you about while we have you about mobile home lot rents and those increases, which we're getting chafing from from other constituents about the continual drumbeat on increases every year that are substantial, and how we can help either rein that in, but without offending mobile home park owners who might not want to support owning mobile home parks. So I want to figure out how we can at least look at that.
Sure.
And then I'd love to have you stick, if you can, because Kirby Keaton's going to come in and talk about a possible additional incentive for accessory dwelling units and why they might want to. It's a tax incentive as an additional carrot for them for people considering developing an ADU. So
Certainly.
it's yours.
Great, thank you so much. And yeah, happy to, I'll hand it over to Scott to give some background on the Manufactured Housing Improvement and Repair Program, or MER for short. And then I'm happy to speak briefly about some initial thoughts on S34, which I believe is the rental increase
well,
bill. So,
because we're stuck on that piece of the concern. Right. Great.
all right. And I believe, Scott, were you able to have that presentation?
I sent it along yesterday, the PowerPoint. I don't
Yep.
know. I think
It's on
it's there.
the website.
It's on the website and we can pull it up.
Is Scott able to share his screen, perhaps?
He is now.
You
Cool.
can now. You're all set to be able to share your screen, Scott. Or
If I can bring PowerPoint into this window here. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, and so while Scott's bringing that up, so the MER program was established during the COVID era to try to curb or try to address some of the particular home improvement issues that many people in mobile home parks were grappling with, and perhaps at risk of homelessness. So I'll let Scott explain, but it's largely in three different types of assistance for parks. So go ahead, Scott. Thanks.
Skipped ahead by itself there, but yeah, this is the Manufactured Home Improvement and Repair Program. I think the original legislation back in 2022 said Manufactured Home Improvement and Replacement Program, but since there wasn't really any true replacement in the program, we changed the name to Repair. So it's a joint venture between DHCD, the Vermont State Housing Authority, and CVOEO, the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity, and their mobile home program. So Sean will give me a little bit of background to the program. Basically, what it does is infill vacant or abandoned lots to help increase the state's affordable housing stock and general overall improvement of parks. And then it also repairs and revitalizes an important piece of the state's affordable housing stock, which are manufactured homes. And our big focus is preventing displacement of households. So we really want to ensure people can stay in their homes. So a little bit about where this program came from. Back in 2022 was the initial legislation, S226. That used $4 million of ARPA funding to get the program started. And then in 2023, an additional $4 million was provided through Act 81, which was H171, which actually gave VHCB $4 million to then pass along to DHCD to keep the program going, as there was a tremendous amount of interest early on, and the initial $4 million went down pretty quickly, so we wanted to make sure we could keep the program going for the amount of need that was out there. And in 2024, through two different acts in the most recent session, H883 and H687 each provided an additional 1 million for a total of 2 million, which we are about to open the applications for that next month. So I just wanted to share this set of photos just to show some of the problems that we've been faced with and that mobile home parks across the state might be facing. And these are some of the issues we've been addressing through the program. So let's dive into home repair awards first, because this is the most utilized piece of the program. And again, the main purpose is to prevent displacement of vulnerable households. Homeowners can receive up to $18,000 for repairs or accessibility projects that ensure that occupants will remain healthily housed. And we do provide technical assistance through CVOEO's mobile home program. So if people need application assistance, translation assistance, assistance with procuring contractors, just really understanding how the eligibility in the program works, they can always contact CVOEO. Some of the eligible uses include roof repairs, accessibility needs, electrical challenges, if a heating system fails, or if there's a burst pipe in a water system. Those are things that we can help address.
So, Scott, may I just interrupt you, because we just heard from Gary that he had a plumber come who wouldn't work on his manufactured home. So what is it with plumbers and mobile homes?
Certainly that situation is not limited to just plumbers. I live in Brattleboro, and a friend of mine owns an installation company, and they don't touch mobile homes. So I think that's not unique to just plumbers. It's a challenge to get contractors to come out to parks and get these homes repaired. And CVOEO's mobile home program is instrumental in helping bridge that gap and identifying contractors that might be out there. We do provide a list of contractors who have provided repairs since the program started 2 years ago. So
provide that
just a reference list. It's not a recommendation of any particular contractor, but it just is a list of contractors that happen to have done MER related repairs. So
if Gary and Tim are still on this, we would recommend them contact Scott and get that list of contractors. Also, the Secretary of State's website now has all contractors listed. They all have to register. So my guess is there are also some there. So you're saying it's up to the individual plumber, electrician, whoever, to decide what they're willing to go and work on or not work on.
We've heard from a number of residents applying to the program that they can't find either, whether it be a plumber, electrician, roofer, whatever they're looking for. They have had struggles.
Got it. So another reason. Yeah, anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. All right. And the bottom there, you can see a quick before and after photo of a home in Starksboro. This is a more extreme case, but I want to show a couple other before and after photos. A tree actually fell through the roof of this home, and through the program, we were able to repair it. And on the right, you see how it looks following this unfortunate situation. And here is an example of someone who did a do-it-yourself project. We do offer that option for homeowners who have the skill and knowledge to repair their own homes. So this is another one in Starksboro where a particularly handy homeowner was able to really revamp their home. They used funds. I mean, they maxed out their award to $18,000, and they had to use some of their own money to get their home to this point. But it was really impressive, the work that was done. And this is a home, well, this is a lot in Johnson that was flooded. And you can see the homeowner could only afford to buy a used home to get back onto their lot. So the MER award in conjunction with the some of the disaster relief funding worked together to make this project happen. And this lot actually received an infill award, home repair award, and a foundation award due to the flooding. So they received all 3 types of MER awards, which is pretty rare.
The after photograph we're looking at is a new second, a second.
That is the same home.
Oh, it's the same home. Okay.
It's the exact same home. Yep. So some of these are pretty compelling before and after photos of what the program is able to do. And then jumping over to infill awards. So these are for park owners. And I wanted to note the previous ones, the home repairs, are for full-time residents. It has to be their permanent residence in a registered mobile home park. And for park owners, we have infill awards where if you have an abandoned home or a lot that is vacant and it might be a blighted site that's been left vacant for a long time, park owners can apply for an infill award to do park improvements up to $20,000. So this can include, demolition and removal of an old abandoned home. It can include lot clearing, regrading, upgrading the water, septic, electrical lines to that lot. So this is an example in Washington of a home that was old and abandoned, and the brand new home on the right that was placed there. And the third and final piece of the program are foundation awards. So these provide opportunities for folks to get a foundation on a vacant lot. It might be a HUD-approved slab, which would be required if it's a new home they're going to be putting it on there. The maximum award is $15,000. And this can include site prep, actually putting down the slab, but it can also include skirting, tie downs, utility connections to get the home installed. And this one is in St. Albans, I believe.
Right. Yes, key to have it tied down. I mean, this is what happened after Irene with many of our mobile home parks. We had the home in Ludlow in 2023 that floated down the river 300 feet. And we've been able to get that homeowner back into his home, and that lot is now elevated. So it's elevated, it's tied down. The propane tanks for that home, I've done a site visit there. The propane tanks are never going to move. So it's good to see those things getting tied down properly. Yeah.
So here are a few of the results of the program so far in the first 2 years. We've infilled 132 lots in parks. We've performed repairs on over 330 homes, and we are almost to 60 foundations that have been put down through the program. So we've obligated $7 million worth of awards, and 132, I think it's actually 134 now, but just over 130 mobile home parks have participated in some way, whether it be infill, home repair, or foundation. And we've received over 908 applications. That number's gone up a little bit since February 11th. And we've done 154 site visits to various parks throughout the state. And I mentioned we are about to reopen next month. We currently have emergency home repair open right now. So every year we've been setting aside $100,000 of the funding to make sure if someone loses heating during the winter, loses water during the winter, if someone's roof collapses through a tree falling onto it, or if there's another natural disaster such as a flood, that we can respond and assist those folks even when applications are closed, because we can't keep applications we can't keep applications open year round because the demand is too great. And, we could go through, $8 million in a year quite easily if we kept the program open 12 months a year. So we have to be cautious with when we open and close.
So Scott, just because our time is getting a little challenged, I just want to, I don't know how much longer your presentation is. But your ask this year in the governor's budget is what at the moment? Remind me. I know it's in our bill, but I can't, remind me what it is.
I can speak to that. So it's a $2 million base funding ask, and that's key. We haven't had ongoing funding for this, and so turning it into a program that we can rely on would be phenomenal, both for the recipients, but also for our staffing. And we're also actually asking for this program to be codified in statute because it was only it hasn't actually been put on the books. It's I think it was in session law or something like that. But
right, Keisha may remember, but I think that's right because that happened in 2022.
yeah.
And Cam has that language. You've sent that all to Cam.
It was in the governor's proposal, so I imagine he has access to it. Yeah.
So then Cam has it. And I'll have him be in touch if he has any further questions. So Kirby is going to be arriving any moment. Scott, why don't you finish? Oh,
There you go.
2 slides. So I just wanted to show the geographic distribution
yeah,
of,
show, please. Apologies.
So obviously Chittenden has received the most funding through the program, which makes sense based on the population. But you'll see like Lamoille and a couple others are a little higher than you might expect, and I think that's because of the flooding. We've had to invest a lot of funds into counties where there was tremendous amount of flooding in 2023 and 2024 to get people back into their homes, back on their lots, and we all know how difficult the floods have been for folks, especially in mobile home parks.
Great.
Say
Yes, Keisha.
I mean,
I can't
obviously
see.
Essex County sticks out like a sore thumb, and Senator Weeks and I were just talking to folks from there yesterday in committee during NEK Day. And, you know, they highlighted for us that I believe at this point, they only have 2 House members who live in that county. The senators for that area, I think, are both in Orleans, and I don't want to disparage anybody, but we were really trying to understand how they feel incredibly left behind. And I'm sure there's mobile homes there. So just want to but, you know, reflect back what I heard yesterday at NEK Day. They would really love for people to visit them and understand their struggles since they feel underrepresented.
Right. Thanks, David. David has a question.
I do have a question, new guy question. So I'm trying to compare this to VHIP. So VHIP has a requirement that after the investment and the renovations, that a certain number or a certain percentage of the units be dedicated to homeless or those very low income. Now, I believe by nature maybe this MER program automatically kind of fits into that category, but my question really is there a similar obligation that the housing, that the residents of the housing fit into an economic category to be awarded the state fund?
That's a good question. Sean and Scott, can you answer that? Because they're in mobile homes. Is there an income requirement for the MERS participation and eligibility?
There is not. It's just anybody whose primary residence is in the mobile home park and they have a health habitability issue that they can address.
Right.
Part of the initial ARPA funding, we had revenue replacement funds. So this was designated as revenue replacement. And the justification for that was because by nature of living in a registered mobile home park, a vast majority of folks living in those parks are low to moderate income. So we did the research, we put the numbers in, and that's how we were able to have this not have a financial requirement. Folks who apply do self-attest to their income bracket, but they don't actually have to provide tax returns and other verification of income.
But that's helpful. So they have to self-attest. They have to attest to the fact to some income level.
To which income level they fall in.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
And I was gonna mention Essex County has only 2 mobile home parks, as does Grand Isle. So those are the 2 counties that have the fewest mobile home parks. So very few mobile homes in those 2 counties.
Oh, thank you. Huh. Any other question on MERS? So you're asking for 2 million in base funding this year. And you're asking to have, to be codified in statute. And again, I just have to say, now that I have my home ownership antenna sharpened and here comes Kirby. I have to say that it really sticks out that this is another thing that the home repair program, because they're not on the registry, even their low income residents or lower income senior residents wouldn't be eligible for any home repair through this program. Right?
Correct. It's currently limited to mobile home parks. So yes.
Okay, thanks. We have, our time is always tight. And I think maybe if you had, I think I'm not going to take up time because we have Kirby and we don't have Kirby for that long. I would really like us, if you don't mind sticking Scott and Sean, I'd really like Kirby to walk through one, because we've had issues with getting enticing ADU owners, if possible, ADUs owners to consider ADU, developing their home and adding an ADU. And in Woodstock, this, because sadly, once they develop their, Kirby, come join us, please. Once they redevelop and build an ADU, their home gets reassessed, and they, lo and behold, find that they're assessed for quite a bit more. Their home has increased in value with this addition of an ADU. And so, sorry, we're just got some technical coordination here. So, I had, at the request of our Woodstock Housing Group, we have drafted, we've worked with Kirby to develop one carrot to consider as a carrot to develop an ADU, because it just, again, is still our low hanging fruit. And so in terms of developing more housing units, Kirby, it is yours. Have you met everybody, Kirby, on this committee?
No,
Okay,
although we worked remotely.
okay. David Weeks,
Dave Weeks, Rutland County. Nice
Great to meet you.
Kirby Keaton, you work together. I know you work with the rest of our committee.
Best
Yep.
legend. I told everybody I said that.
Oh, well, it's, you know.
And Keisha is with us remotely. So you
Okay,
Hi, Kirby.
that's in there.
So take it away, and we'll chat about the red bot maybe offline. Thanks.
Okay, just connect to Zoom.
Right. And thanks, Kirby, for making time for us. It's great.
Yeah, I'm just running over from a meeting, so
Yeah,
excuse me if I
we gather.
gather my thoughts for a minute.
Yep, you're up.
I had a hiccup there.
And Sean and Scott, Heidi will be kind enough, I hope, to send you a copy of this. Okay.
Thank you. And actually, Scott doesn't get involved with accessory dwelling units, so I think if you want to sign off, I'll
Okay.
dismiss you there.
Scott, thank you so much. Let's chat if we could in the next, maybe on Monday. Okay, are we all set?
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Okay, hopefully,
Okay, we're all
we'll
set.
stick this time.
Okay.
So, we have some language, Kirby Keaton, Legislative Council. We have some language to create a property value freeze for new ADUs and certain other improvements done. So we're amending, or we're creating a new property exemption technically, even though it's just a free value, it's not a full exemption. And so first thing we have in this bill is statutory purpose, because all tax expenditures like exemptions have to have a statutory purpose. So the statutory purpose here is for certain new construction improvements is to incentivize those activities. Straightforward. Okay, and then we have the new exemption. And so I'm just gonna skim over that. An increase in the appraisal value of a property shall be exempted from property taxation by fixing and maintaining the taxable value at the property's grand list value in the year immediately preceding improvements in the following cases. So this law would create a value freeze in certain situations. The first is when the property has been rehabilitated or improved using a grant from VHIP and construction has been fully completed in the previous 12 months, or the property has been improved through the construction of a new ADU with the definition from Title 24 for an ADU, and construction has been fully completed in the previous 12 months. So that's the heart of it. And then the further details that are worked out here are that a decrease in value of property subject to this exemption may reduce the taxable value. So that's it. That's in the case where there was a value freeze. But let's say the place burned down. We don't want to hold them to the value freeze in that case. It allows the property value to be reduced in a situation like that. We also have a provision saying the exemption under this section shall apply to education property tax and to municipal property tax. And the last provision is an exemption under this section will remain in effect for 3 years. So there's your window for the value freeze. It's not permanent. And so when the exemption period ends, the property will be taxed at its most recently appraised grand list value. And that's recognizing the fact that just because the values freeze doesn't mean that the listers or assessing officials won't continue to be aware of what that value should be at its full fair market value.
So I had not really intended to include all VHIP projects, which I think number 1 on page 2 does. Does that, because I really only meant to include ADUs, not because the others, I mean, we can discuss it, but I hadn't really meant to include all projects that have been improved and rehabilitated through the VHIP program, but we can certainly discuss it. But I'm really, the focus on this was because VHIP has had a big uptake. You know, Sean, you can tell us, I mean, VHIP has had a very robust uptake. The ADUs have lagged behind. And so this was really designed to help encourage people to do ADUs, not to give a further incentive to a program that people are already using robustly. And am I right in assuming in number 1, you include all VHIP projects?
All that are paid for using a grant. So
not a loan. Not the loan, just the grant.
And that's the way it's written. I have no idea how large of a group that is at this point. I recall when we worked on this, I did look at VHIP's website, but I don't recall learning how many projects this would be. But I feel like that's something that we probably would know.
Yeah, and so Sean, I guess I'd turn to you to am I correct in understanding that our VHIP projects are robustly embraced, but am I correct in still thinking that ADUs are a bit of a lag?
ADUs continue to be roughly 20% of the total VHIP units. There is a concentration in Chittenden County just because of the market forces. Although we still do, as Paul Margarano spoke to, they still do have ADUs in their service area as well. But yeah, I think that property tax stabilization would certainly be, I think that would reduce a significant barrier that some people see and are concerned about.
Right. Yeah, that was the intent, was to just stabilize it for 3 years and let them earn some income from it so that they can then be able to afford that bump and in our neck of the woods, it has been on the two properties that are done have been huge bumps in value. So, anything else, Kirby? Am I correct in assuming in one that you included all VHIP projects?
All using a grant, yeah, and I thought that was my understanding, so
Yeah,
I apologize if I misunderstood.
And then, so maybe just before we discuss this, Sean, can you just clarify the numbers in VHIP between the loans and the grants and where the uptake, do we need to incentivize more taking the grant or have more loan?
Sure. So as of the moment, the 5-year affordability restriction with the homeless component is considered a grant. The 10-year affordability to anybody who's eligible, any tenants, is considered a forgivable loan. There has been some discussion about whether or not the 5-year option should also be considered a forgivable loan. So I want to be sensitive to that. To date, we have only allowed the 5-year option until relatively recently. And so we're just starting to see the 10-year uptake. I think that once again, we've got about, I'd say at least from the last numbers that I saw, something like 20 to 25% of the applicants were seeking the 5-year higher service level, and the remaining 75% are seeking the 10-year.
Okay, so most people are seeking the loan, and that means they just rent an area median income, not people exiting homelessness.
At HUD fair market rents. So it is tied to the area median income, yes, but it's the fair market.
So thank you. That's very helpful, and that clearly informed our conversations because we developed this fall. So it's been a few months, so I apologize. So committee, this is an incentive to encourage some of our best low-hanging fruit and encourage people to both develop ADUs and to possibly, under consideration in number one, can encourage people to take the grant and welcome more people exiting homelessness who need homes. So both of those are taken less advantage of. And this, I thought, was a pretty modest, and what we don't have yet is a JFO fiscal impact. Hard to do, I think, at the moment, just because it's, we haven't, is it Ted? Who would I reach out to at JFO?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if we had JFO involved in this in the first place, but I can go.
Okay, if you'd be kind of do that, we can have that by next week.
Sure.
David, did you have a thought?
So a clarity question. So VHIP program can be used for new construction ADUs?
Yes,
correct.
So if you have a carriage house and you're wanting that, and
that's not new. That's renovation.
It's renovation. Sean, it can also be used for new construction, building a new unit on your property as an ADU, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So yeah, we're past time. You're welcome to go. We'll fill you in. So I put this forward for consideration. Sean, do you have any thoughts about this? It sounds like you were relatively supportive.
Yeah, I think that we would generally support tax stabilization. I'll speak with my my colleagues in the department, but I don't see any immediate concerns.
Okay, great. And it sounds like those pieces of VHIP could do with some encouragement. That was sort of the intent.
Well, we're certainly happy to encourage it. We want to see as many units. The one flag I'll raise, and I have to speak with my team, who's and maybe the homeownership centers. We allow for 18 months for completion time. Most of the units come on in less than 12 months, but that might be a number we want to consider.
Obviously, we can chat about that. Great. So the 12 months you might want to change to 18.
But perhaps, yeah.
Right.
If I remember when I drafted this, the reason I put previous 12 months was the project had to be completed. That doesn't mean that the project couldn't have taken much longer in the first place.
I see.
From the time that you claim this, it would have to have been the last 12 months. That's all.
Understood.
Thank you. David?
And again, just for clarity, so, you made the comment that we're trying to encourage the VHIP program, but is the VHIP program, isn't it already kind of at a saturation point where the funds that go in are fully utilized each year or not?
Sean?
We are fully utilizing the funds each year and have wait lists. I think we might see a different mix of what people are seeking if there's this element. I think that's the goal.
Yeah, the goal of this is to sort of shake up the mix a little bit and encourage ADUs. And we could do it as a pilot, we could do it, but the problem is, as a pilot, this has got a 3-year tail on it in terms of, but we could conceivably do it for as a pilot for a couple of years and see if it actually improves the ADU pickup. Thank you. More to follow, I think. I put this forward, and this will be, Cam and Kirby have got this in our housing bill as a proposal, and we will discuss this, continue to discuss it in the next week.
Just make I understand that if program is fully utilized, you're just changing the mix of potentially, that's the aim. And just wondering if that's beneficial enough to do.
Sean, do you have any first thoughts on that? Did you hear Randy's question?
Yeah, I mean, changing the mix, what it suggests is that you would then do less of the other kind of loan or grant.
Yeah, Sean?
That is true. It is a policy decision about what we're trying to incent.
Right. No, that's fair.
And I just wonder if that the effort is beneficial enough to be worthwhile, because it's going to reduce something else that we also considered beneficial. So,
and maybe affect numbers of units that are actually rehabilitated. I think that's fair. I am doing this as a response to an issue that in my community in particular. So thank you. We are past break time. We're expecting VHFA in 5